Piers Morgan's bold stand against woke culture. Piers Morgan has consistently made headlines for his unapologetic critiques of woke culture, taking a bold stance against what he sees as its contradictions and excesses. As a seasoned journalist and TV personality, Morgan's unfiltered opinions often challenge the core beliefs of modern social movements, creating conversations around topics many tend to avoid. In this blog post, we will explore Morgan's perspectives on woke ideology, touching on issues such as gender identity, free speech, and the broader implications of social movements. Understanding gender identity in sports. One of the most controversial topics in the woke culture debate is the inclusion of transgender women biological males in women's sports. Piers Morgan doesn't shy away from asking the hard questions: should celebrated male athletes like Lionel Messi or Usain Bolt be allowed to compete in women's sports if they identify as women?
Would you allow him, if he said, I'm a woman, to play in the American women's national team?
You're using the wrong pronoun
Yes, right now. Hell yeah, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Messi on the U.S. women's national team? Hell yeah.
Would you allow
that would
Usain
mean...
Bolt to do that and be in the sprinting team?
Yes, because that would mean they're a trans woman. They identify as women.
I get it. So just to be clear, you'd let Lionel Messi play in the women's national football team and destroy women's football forever. You'd let Usain Bolt...
it'd be very difficult to get a ticket, which would suck.
I want to do a little checklist here. You'd let Usain Bolt compete as a sprinter in the American women's Olympic team?
Yes.
Okay. You would let Floyd Mayweather compete as a boxer in the women's American boxing team?
Yeah.
This, for Morgan, is not just a theoretical issue, it's a question of fairness and the integrity of women's athletics. Biological definitions. Morgan holds a firm belief that biological definitions matter in the realm of competitive sports. He asserts that a woman is defined, biologically, as an adult female human. This foundational concept, he argues, is central to maintaining fairness in women's sports. Allowing biological males to compete undermines decades of progress for female athletes, skewing competitions and often leaving biological females at a physical disadvantage. Real-world implications. Morgan points to extreme real-world examples, such as cases where male criminals, identifying as women, have been transferred to female prisons. These scenarios, according to Morgan, underscore the potential dangers of prioritizing gender identity over biological reality, both in sports and society at large. The absurdity of woke logic. Morgan has repeatedly highlighted the inconsistencies and contradictions within woke ideology. Through interviews and public debates, he questions the reasoning behind certain elements of woke culture, often exposing flaws in the logic presented by its proponents. Questioning double standards. A recurring theme in Morgan's critique is the double standards that seem to exist within woke culture. For instance, he points out the omnipresence of rainbow flags during Pride Month and asks why there isn't an equivalent celebration for straight identities. By raising these questions, he reveals the inconsistency with which different sexual identities are celebrated or marginalized in public discourse. Rhetorical questions. Morgan frequently uses rhetorical questions to make his point, asking why the logic behind woke culture seems to falter when applied to certain scenarios. This method not only challenges individuals to think critically but also highlights the contradictions that can arise when ideology is taken to extremes. The evolution of woke culture. While woke culture initially focused on issues of racial and social justice, Morgan believes it has evolved into something more authoritarian. He has likened it to a form of social control, comparing its rigid adherence to rules and ideologies to fascism. For Morgan, woke culture no longer seeks to foster equality but instead imposes a specific worldview, punishing those who dare to dissent.
I think that if you were really concerned about glorifying obesity, you would take yourself off the air.
But I'm not obese. It's just a statistical medical fact.
From equality to authoritarianism. Morgan laments the shift in woke culture from a movement aimed at achieving equality to one that suppresses opposing views. He argues that the original intentions behind the movement have been corrupted, leading to a situation where dissent is no longer tolerated. Social media's role. He also highlights the role of social media in perpetuating these authoritarian tendencies. According to Morgan, platforms like Twitter have created echo chambers where individuals are exposed only to views that reinforce their own, rather than challenging them to engage with differing opinions. This has led to an increased polarization and a regression to tribalism, where differing viewpoints are met with hostility rather than open debate. The call for healthy debate. At the heart of Morgan's criticism of woke culture is his call for a return to healthy debate. In his view, true liberalism involves respecting and tolerating differing opinions, even when those opinions conflict with popular narratives. He believes that the current state of woke culture, driven by an often vocal minority, is undermining this essential principle of democracy. Restoring consensus. Morgan argues that the way forward is to restore consensus through respectful debate, rather than resorting to cancel culture or social ostracism. He calls for a space where individuals with differing views can come together, discuss, and find common ground without fear of being silenced or shamed. Real liberalism. Morgan frequently reminds his audience that true liberalism is about fostering a diversity of opinions. He warns that if society continues to embrace a narrow, rigid set of beliefs, we risk undermining the very freedoms that democracy is built upon. Defending democracy and free speech. Piers Morgan positions himself as a staunch defender of democracy, advocating for the principles of free speech and open discourse. He argues that woke culture's obsession with silencing dissenting voices represents a serious threat to democratic society. Education on true freedom. Morgan sees his role as one of educating people about the true meaning of democracy and free speech. He emphasizes that these values involve listening to opposing views, not just reinforcing one's own. He also reminds his audience that a functioning democracy thrives on debate, disagreement, and discussion, not conformity. Critique of outrage culture. A central element of woke culture, according to Morgan, is perpetual outrage. He argues that this constant state of indignation over perceived slights or offensive remarks distracts from meaningful progress. Instead of focusing on tangible change, outrage culture often stifles real dialogue and exacerbates societal divisions. The courage to speak out. In today's media landscape, where many commentators shy away from controversial topics, Morgan's unapologetic approach is both refreshing and necessary. He confronts the status quo with honesty, holding up a mirror to the hypocrisies and contradictions that often go unchallenged. Challenging norms. Morgan's willingness to challenge social norms and tackle uncomfortable subjects encourages others to reconsider their positions. His fearless critiques serve as a reminder that true progress comes from questioning established narratives and engaging in difficult conversations. Resilience against backlash. Despite facing significant backlash for his views, Morgan remains resolute in his beliefs. His resilience demonstrates the importance of standing firm, even when one's views are unpopular or counter to mainstream thought. Conclusion: a call for open dialogue. Piers Morgan's critiques of woke culture serve as a reminder of the importance of open dialogue, respect for differing opinions, and the dangers of authoritarian ideologies disguised as progressivism. By challenging the contradictions in woke beliefs and encouraging debate, he advocates for a return to genuine liberalism where disagreement is not only accepted but welcomed as part of a vibrant, healthy democracy. In an increasingly polarized world, Morgan's call for open dialogue is more important than ever. If society is to move forward, we must embrace conversations that challenge our views, promote diversity of thought, and protect the principles of free speech. If you found this analysis of Piers Morgan's stance on woke culture insightful, feel free to share your thoughts or engage in conversations with others.